Bill the Boondock Scientist. Tonight we're going to talk about the B-29 Super Fortress. This plane was designed for the Pacific campaign in World War II because of the large area it had to cover. The B-17s just didn't have the legs to get as far as they needed to without going somewhere and refueling. So we're going to do the B-29 tonight. The B-29 we're looking at right here on this first picture is Boxcar. This is the one that dropped Fat Man atomic bomb on Nagasaki. Okay, this plane was designed in 1940 as an eventual replacement for the B-17 and B-24. The first B-29 made its maiden flight on September 21st, 1942. In December 1943, the U.S. Army Air Forces leadership committed the Super Fortress to Asia, where its great range made it particularly suited for the long overwater flights against the Japanese homeland from bases in China. During the last 2 months of 1944, B-29s began operating against Japan from the islands of Saipan, Guam, and Tinian. With the advent of the conflict in Korea in June 1950, the B-29 returned to combat. Although vulnerable to MiG-15 jet fighter attacks, the Super Fortress remained an effective against several types of targets throughout the Korean War. Okay, a little bit of technical brouhaha here. Armament: 850 caliber machine guns and remote controlled turrets, plus two 50 caliber machine guns and one 20 millimeter cannon in the tail. 20,000 pounds of bombs. The engines were four Wright 3350s of 2200 horsepower each. Maximum speed is 357 miles an hour. Cruising speed 220 miles an hour. Range 3,700 miles. Ceiling 33,600 feet. Wingspan 141 foot 3 inches. The plane was 99 foot long and the height was 27 foot 9 inches. Kind of hard to get into without a ladder. All right, the crew of the Enola Gay was Colonel Paul W. Tibbets Jr. He was the pilot and aircraft commander. Captain Robert A. Lewis, co-pilot, and Enola Gay's regularly assigned aircraft commander. Major Thomas Farabee, the bombardier. Captain Theodore Dutch Van Kirk is the navigator. Captain William S. Deke Parsons, U.S. Navy weaponeer and mission commander. Navy captain is the same rank as an Army Air Corps colonel. First Lieutenant Jacob Besser, radar countermeasures. Also the only man to fly on both of the nuclear bombing aircraft. Second Lieutenant Mars R. Jepson, assistant weaponeer. Staff Sergeant Robert Bob Caron, tail gunner. Staff Sergeant Wyatt E. Dusenberry, flight engineer. Sergeant Joe Steborick, radar operator. Sergeant Robert H. Schumard, assistant flight engineer. And we had to have one on this flight, Private First Class Richard H. Nelson. He was the very high frequency radio operator. And that's the crew of the Enola Gay. Okay, this picture right here is one of the Enola Gay. It took them forever to get this thing restored. They didn't start on it till 1980. It had been parked here, there, and yonder. And some of the Some of the World War II Army Air Corps guys just thought it was a travesty, and it was. So they got it all put back together, and what a sterling example of a B-29 aircraft. Okay, the crew of the Boxcar, Bockscar. Major Charles W. Sweeney was aircraft commander. Captain Charles Donald Don Albury was the co-pilot. Second Lieutenant Frederick Fred J. O'Leary was the regular co-pilot. Captain James F. Van Pelt, Jr., he was a navigator. Captain Kermit K. Behan was a bombardier. Master Sergeant John Kurahek, flight engineer. Staff Sergeant Raymond C. Gallagher was the gunner, assistant flight engineer. Staff Sergeant Edward K. Buckley, radar operator. Sergeant Abe M. Spitzer, radio operator. Sergeant Albert T. Pappy DeHart, tail gunner. Also on board were the following additional mission personnel. Commander Frederick Ashworth, USN Weaponeer. Lieutenant Philip M. Barnes, U.S. Navy, Assistant Weaponeer. First Lieutenant Jacob Besser, Radar Countermeasures. That's the crew of Boxcar. This beautiful picture is of Boxcar. Why it's called Boxcar was there was one of the captains that was a pilot for a while, and his name was Bach. That's how it got to be Boxcar. And Enola Gay was named that because Tibbetts' mother was named after Tibbetts' mother. So there we have it, folks. These are the planes that hauled the bombs. Boxcar took Fat Man, dropped it on Nagasaki, and the Enola Gay dropped the Little Boy on Hiroshima. Little Boy did one hell of a job because Hiroshima essentially is in a kind of a valley. I've been to Hiroshima in 1970, and it is an amazing place, and there is a museum there. All right, folks, that's it. The Boondock Scientist is going to sign off with a U.S. Marine Corps Semper Fi.